Hello and welcome to TrustTalks, the podcast where we explore the evolving landscape of security and GRC. In this episode, we have Anna, a solutions engineer at TrustCloud, and we're going to talk to her about trust centers, using them to accelerate sales, and about AI to answer security questionnaires. Hello, Anna. Welcome to TrustTalks.
Hi, I'm really excited to be here. I have been lucky enough to work at TrustCloud for 2 years, where I've been able to kind of explore what it means to be a vendor to your customer and a customer to your vendors. And I'm really excited to talk about that today.
Amazing. So let's dive right in. So Anna, in a world where every buyer asks for proof, how has the idea of security as a differentiator evolved, and how do trust centers help flip the script?
You know, that's a really great question. I think the evolution has been pretty dramatic. Security used to be this black box, something that, happened behind the scenes, maybe mentioned in a footnote during sales conversations. But now security isn't just an IT or a compliance function. It's central to how buyers evaluate vendors, especially in regulated industries.
And why do you think this shift happened? I mean, what's driving buyers to care so much more now?
Honestly, a few things. First, there's just more awareness. High-profile breaches, evolving privacy regulations, and increasing third-party risk have made buyers more cautious. Secondly, the average buyer, whether it's a procurement lead or a CTO, now comes to the table expecting transparency. They want proof, they want policies, penetration test reports, data flow diagrams before they even schedule a demo in some cases. This is where we introduce the Trust Center.
So how does a Trust Center actually change the buying experience?
It flips the experience from reactive to proactive. So traditionally, the process goes like this. A buyer is interested, the deal moves forward, and then boom, 300 question security questionnaire due in 2 weeks. And everything comes to this grinding halt. The GRC scrambles, sales stalls, but then you have this trust center. So especially one like TrustCloud's Trust Center, where you're publishing your security posture up front. It's live, it's transparent, and it's tailored to what buyers actually want to see. We've got certifications, policies, compliance milestones, even risk mitigation details or notification centers. So instead of responding to questions, you are answering them before they're asked.
Well, that sounds like a big time saver, but how does it impact the trust factor itself?
So you're building instant credibility. When a company shares its security posture openly and keeps it updated, it signals confidence and maturity. And it also shows buyers, we take this seriously. We've done the work. That kind of transparency isn't just about reducing friction. It actually strengthens the trust relationship. It turns security into a competitive advantage, not a bottleneck.
Makes sense. Would you say that in the near future, buyers might expect a trust center as a baseline?
Oh, 100%. I think it's even starting to get to that point today. Just like you wouldn't do business with a vendor who doesn't have HTTPS on their website, I think we're heading to a point where not having a trust center will definitely raise red flags. It's becoming table stakes for any serious enterprise vendor and a lot of startup vendors that I'm working with as well.
All right. How does a public trust center change the dynamics between buyers and sellers in high-stakes enterprise deals? You said that, I gather that you've been working with startups, SMBs, as well as enterprise customers. So.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I've been lucky enough to work with all stages of different companies here at TrustCloud. I actually started working on our startup sector, so I've been able to see a wide range. Something that I've noticed in the enterprise sector is that a public trust center doesn't just change the dynamics, it completely redefines them. So in high stakes enterprise deals, the balance of power traditionally sits with the buyer. They control the security review, the questionnaire, the timeline. So vendors are stuck in a reactive loop. They're waiting, responding, justifying, and a public trust center just flips that narrative pretty easily. It also, gives the seller the opportunity to lead with transparency. So you're no longer waiting for the security questionnaire to be sent. You're proactively showing your hand. You're saying, here's our security posture. It's current, it's comprehensive, it's available 24/7.
Great. And what kind of impact does this have on deal velocity or buyer behavior in general?
I mean, honestly, since starting at TrustCloud and being introduced to the concept of a trust center, being someone in the solutions engineering team at my previous companies, I spent a lot of time answering these security questionnaires. And something I've noticed is that it shortens the sales cycle incredibly, plain and simple. Buyers no longer have to wait for weeks while InfoSec reviews a shared folder, or somebody scrambles to answer a 200 question form, or you're pinging different people from different teams trying to get confirmation that something's correct before you click that little box. Trust centers like TrustCloud make it easy to access audit-ready content pre-mapped to industry frameworks. That removes friction. And when you remove friction, deals move faster. More importantly, it builds buyer confidence. So it signals, we're not hiding behind a curtain. We're ready to be evaluated. That changes how you're perceived, not just as a vendor, but as a strategic partner.
Absolutely. Do you think it helps sales teams too? Or is it mostly just a GRC benefit?
Oh my gosh, it's a game changer for sales. Security reviews are one of the last unscalable bottlenecks in SaaS sales. A good trust center empowers reps to handle objections in real time. Instead of going back and forth with security teams for days, a rep can say, you'll find our SOC 2 penetration testing summary and data flow diagrams right here. So it's not just faster, it's smarter. It removes the need for salespeople to become security experts and let buyers self-educate at their pace on their terms. And also what I've noticed a lot of our customers doing is they've adopted this workflow where, using the trust center and having this knowledge base in TrustCloud, when you get a security assessment, they'll have the salesperson that owns the opportunity take a first pass at the questions, answer as many as they can, and then assign the questions that they can answer to members of the security team. So it's not like you're getting a bunch of questions, here and there. Everybody knows exactly what they're responsible for and why.
In your opinion, could this become a standard expectation from buyers?
For sure, absolutely. In fact, in some sectors, it already is. Just like pricing transparency became a SaaS expectation over time, security transparency is headed in the same direction. We're moving toward a world where buyers won't just appreciate a public trust center, they'll expect it. And vendors who invest in that kind of transparency will win on trust, speed, and credibility.
Well, does transparency reduce the need for repeated diligence cycles or raise the bar for all?
Honestly, it does both, and that's the beauty of it. On one hand, transparency absolutely reduces the need for repeated diligence cycles. When companies have a live, well-maintained trust center, like what TrustCloud enables, they're no longer starting from zero every time a new buyer shows up. Buyers can access up-to-date documentation, certifications, policies, even audit results on demand. That creates a single source of truth that can be referenced again and again. But at the same time, it raises the bar, because once some vendors start leading with transparency, others can't hide behind outdated PDFs or, available upon request disclaimers anymore. It shifts the industry expectation forward.
That's interesting. It's like a transparency arms race.
Yeah, you could say that. It's similar to what happened with SOC 2 a few years ago. Initially, only a few vendors had it, and it was a nice to have. Now it's table stakes. Transparency is on the exact same path. Buyers get used to vendors being upfront and accessible with their security posture, and suddenly those who don't offer that experience feel behind. So transparency reduces redundant work, but it also nudges the whole ecosystem towards higher standards.
Does that mean that security and GRC teams end up doing more work to maintain that standard?
Not necessarily more work, just different work. Instead of answering the same 200 questions 50 times a year, they're investing in curating and maintaining their trust center once and then reaping the benefits across deals. It's actually, I would say, a huge efficiency gain. Plus with automation tools built into platforms like TrustCloud, much of that maintenance, like mapping evidence to controls or updating status, is done for you. So you're not stuck in a loop, you're evolving with your buyers. And, again, I would say that it's easier because, years ago you were searching for this information in an Excel sheet, and now it's all kept in this digestible, updated page that you can keep referencing.
That's great. So in a way, transparency becomes a competitive advantage.
Absolutely. Transparency isn't just about compliance anymore. It's about confidence. It's about control. And in enterprise sales, trust isn't just a value, it's a differentiator. A good trust center communicates all of that before you've even had a conversation.
So Anna, we spoke about a trust center becoming table stakes, and you also compared it to a vendor without an HTTPS secured website. Mm-hmm. So, how do you look at this in the current scenario?
A decade ago, HTTPS was seen as a nice to have, mostly for e-commerce or sensitive data handling. Now it's the default. If your site isn't secure, people don't trust you. In the same way, trust centers are quickly moving from forward thinking to baseline expectation. Today's buyers are more educated, more risk aware, and frankly, they're tired of waiting for security documentation. They want real-time access to your security posture before they even send a questionnaire. And companies that don't offer that, they look dated and less credible, slower to do business with.
Makes sense. So you're saying we are entering a trust center or bust era.
Yeah, I like that phrase. Buyers don't want to chase vendors for SOC 2 reports or ask 10 times for a penetration test summary. If you can't proactively share that through a trust center, you're slowing down the deal. And that matters a lot, especially last week of the quarter. Just like it's suspicious today if you visit a website that says not secure, in a couple of years, buyers will raise their eyebrows if you say, we don't have a trust center, but we can email you some PDFs. That's not going to cut it anymore.
What industries do you see leading that shift?
Tech and SaaS, for sure, especially those selling into regulated sectors. So fintech, healthcare, or enterprise IT. But what's interesting is that even mid-market buyers now expect a seamless security review. It's no longer just an enterprise procurement problem. So once one vendor sets a new transparency standard, the rest are forced to catch up or risk being left behind. It's the same pattern we saw with GDPR readiness or even modern pricing pages.
So what would your advice be to companies that are on the fence about launching a trust center?
Ooh, my advice is don't wait until a deal falls through to make the investment. A trust center isn't just a compliance tool, it's a revenue enabler. It saves your GRC team time, gives sales leverage, and creates a stronger first impression with buyers. And platforms like TrustCloud make it easier than ever to launch one in days, not months. So if you're serious about trust, speed, and credibility, make it part of your default stack now, not later.
All right. So again, talking about trust centers, I'd like to know, how is TrustCloud leading the way, and what's so unique about TrustCloud's trust center? Also, if you could talk about the whole security questionnaire automation offering.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I could go on about this for a long time. TrustCloud is leading the way by reimagining how companies build and prove trust proactively, continuously, and at scale. So most solutions in this space either focus on document storage or automating parts of the questionnaire process, but we take a different approach. We built this unified platform that combines live, transparent security posture, sharing through our trust center with AI-powered automation for handling even the most complex security questionnaires. It's not just about answering faster, it's about shifting left, building trust before the questionnaires arrive. And then we also take all of that information and give you this internal interactive business intelligence page that will tell you, how has your number of questionnaires decreased over time? What documents are people clicking on your trust portal, to really give you that insight into how that trust center is really being used by your prospects.
Wow, that sounds like a big deal and like a major shift. I was going to ask you if you could break down what makes your trust center different. But if you want to add something more to what you just said.
Oh, absolutely. Traditional trust centers are static, I would say. They're glorified file repositories. TrustCloud's Trust Center is live, dynamic, and permission aware. You can publicly share your security posture, whether it's, SOC 2, ISO 27001, pen test summaries, policies. You could upload a SIG or cake, questionnaire, and there are also gate-sensitive documents behind NDA or buyer-specific access controls. It's always up to date, mapped to frameworks, and tied to real-time assurance. So you can think of it as like a real-time digital security room that's open 24/7. No email threads, no waiting, no PDF chaos.
All right. And on the security questionnaire side, what's the automation actually doing? We hear about AI almost everywhere now. So I just want to understand, what exactly are we doing?
Yeah, I actually think our AI is really interesting. So this is where I would say it gets really exciting. Our AI doesn't look up canned responses. It understands your controls, references mapped evidence, and writes contextually accurate answers for thousands of unique questions. Like, let's say a buyer asks, do you encrypt data at rest in AWS S3? TrustCloud knows your actual implementation and references your encryption policy and architecture documents and writes an answer that aligns with your real posture within seconds. It's like having a certified security analyst embedded in your sales workflow 24/7. And even better, over time, it learns from your preferences, your past answers, and even how you phrase things. So this makes every response better, faster, and more aligned with your business voice. And then what you can also do is, with every answer that the AI has generated for you, you can click back and see exactly where in your environment it built that answer off of. Whether it's from a control, a policy, a question in your knowledge base, you'll have the transparency on our side of where the AI is getting these answers from.
Wow. So this isn't just about compliance. It's about accelerating business as well.
Yeah, 100%. At the end of the day, security shouldn't slow you down. It should speed up trust. With TrustCloud, GRC teams are saving 80 to 90% of the time that they used to spend on questionnaires. Sales cycles are shorter, buyers are more confident, and your security program evolves from a cost center to a strategic differentiator. We're not just checking boxes. We're helping companies build trust, win deals, and scale faster with security as a strength, not as a hurdle.
Are security questionnaires just legacy artifacts of a low-trust digital economy? And is automation merely prolonging the inevitable?
Oh, that's a good question. I would say yes. In many ways, security questionnaires are absolutely a product of a low-trust digital past. They were designed for a time when there was no standard way to assess a vendor's risk posture. So buyers defaulted to spreadsheets full of yes or no questions, or even worse, super long emails of yes or no questions that you have to copy and paste into a spreadsheet before you can answer them. But it was the only way to create some sense of control. But the reality is, most questionnaires aren't built to reflect actual risk. They're generic, they're time consuming, and in many cases, they're a checkbox exercise.
If the underlying process is broken, isn't automation just dressing up the problem?
Well, it depends on how you think about automation. If you're just using AI to regurgitate old answers faster, then yeah, you're speeding up a broken process. But the real opportunity lies in transforming the need for questionnaires altogether. That's where platforms like TrustCloud are taking a different approach. We don't just automate answers, we enable vendors to publish their verified security posture proactively through live, transparent trust centers. So instead of reacting to a questionnaire, you're answering most of it before it's even asked. So it's not just automation, it's evolution.
All right. You know what? I just think dressing up a pig, could that be a little controversial?
I don't know. It might be.
Yeah, it might be, no? I don't want to take a chance. So let me just, anyway, I'm just going to ask the question. You don't need to answer it. I will figure it out.
Okay. So, yeah.
Yeah, so here's the question for the previous response to be changed in order. So in a future state, do you see security reviews happening without questionnaires at all?
Absolutely. And it's already happening. We've seen deals where buyers skip the questionnaire entirely because the vendor's trust center answers 90% of what they need. It's live, it's trustworthy, and it's backed by mapped evidence. It's a difference between pulling teeth and self-service. I've even worked with some companies where if a deal is below a certain deal size, they have communicated to their prospects that they won't answer the questionnaire, and all of the questions need to be self-serviced on their trust portal. So that's also definitely a workflow that companies could try working towards. As trust infrastructure improves, especially with frameworks like SOC 2 or ISO 27001 and real control validation, questionnaires will slowly and hopefully fade into the background. And that's a win for everyone.
I can't agree more. So what should companies be doing today to prepare for that shift?
I would say start investing in proactive transparency. So don't wait to be asked. Show your security program, your compliance posture, your commitment to privacy and risk management. A modern trust center is the first step. Automate the repetitive work for sure, but also rethink why that work exists in the first place. Because the future isn't just about answering faster, it's about not needing to answer at all.
If the underlying process is broken, isn't automation just dressing up the problem? So there is TrustCloud, TrustShare, Trust Center. Are they the same thing? Are they used interchangeably? If you could throw some light on that.
Yeah, of course. TrustShare is the module. We like to think of it as having a first and second line of defense against security assessments. So that first line of defense is the Trust Center. It's the portal that you are proactively showing your customers and prospects to hopefully fulfill the need for sending a security assessment and, bypass that process before it even happens. That would happen in a perfect world. Obviously, we don't live in a perfect world. So that's where we take the AI question automation piece, which is the second line of defense. So those are really the two main aspects that build TrustShare, which is the overarching term for the module.
All right.
When we're referring to TrustCloud, we're referring to our entire suite of products. TrustCloud is going to be that main dashboard you see from the moment that you onboard, and any changes that you make in TrustCloud will have a ripple effect throughout the entire platform because our modules are so interconnected. So if you're looking for any, team information, any integration information, any policy attestation processes, that's all going to live in TrustCloud.
Super. So talking about AI, can AI actually make security questionnaires obsolete, or will we just end up automating a broken process more efficiently?
That's one of the big questions in the GRC space right now. The short answer is AI can absolutely help make security questionnaires obsolete if we aim higher than automation. Here's the thing, security questionnaires as they exist today are mostly a symptom of mistrust and a lack of visibility. Buyers don't know what you're doing to protect data, so they ask hundreds of questions. If all we do is throw AI at that problem to answer faster, we're just automating the busy work. But if we use AI to replace the need for those questions by surfacing verified, live, understandable security posture data up front, that's where the magic begins.
Makes sense. So what does that look like in practice? How do you go beyond automation?
So it starts with making your security posture transparent and self-serve. And that's exactly what a trust center does. With platforms like TrustCloud, AI doesn't just write answers. It understands your controls and links them to evidence. It maps them to frameworks and publishes the most relevant, verified information automatically. Buyers can review your trust center and get real-time assurance before they even send a questionnaire. And increasingly, we're seeing that they often skip the questionnaire altogether when the trust center covers 90% of what they need. It's not just about efficiency, it's about elimination.
Wow, I like that. It's not about efficiency, it's elimination. But some buyers still need that checklist, right? Can AI still help there?
For sure. And that's the short-term reality. Not every buyer is ready to give up the spreadsheet, so we have to wait for industry standards to catch up. AI plays a huge role in making the current process smarter and faster. And with TrustCloud, AI pulls from your real policies, audits, and evidence to auto-generate answers that are accurate, context-aware, and always up to date. That means security teams aren't spending nights and weekends manually answering the same 300 questions over and over again. You're scaling trust without scaling burnout.
Nice. So you're saying the future is somewhat hybrid. Automation today, elimination tomorrow.
For sure. I think we're really in a transitional phase right now. AI is helping automate the friction today, but the real vision is a future where trust is so transparent, verifiable, and standardized that the need for security questionnaires disappears entirely. And the companies that start investing in that kind of AI-powered transparency now, they're the ones who are going to lead tomorrow's trust economy.
With automation handling the heavy lifting of security questionnaires, where should GRC and sales teams focus their time instead?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think the shift we're seeing is really exciting. So now that automation can handle the repeatable, time-consuming work of filling out questionnaires, it opens up a huge opportunity for both GRC and sales teams to, refocus their time on high-impact strategic work. For GRC teams, it's about moving from manual response mode to proactive risk and trust building. Instead of firefighting every questionnaire, they can invest in improving the company's actual risk posture. You're working on tightening controls, validating evidence, preparing for certifications, and working cross-functionally to embed compliance into the business.
So GRC gets to play more offense than defense.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's where it gets fun. So for years, GRC has been stuck in this reactive loop, answering questions, updating spreadsheets, reevaluating the same controls over and over again. With this new automation in place, they can finally move up the value chain. They become strategic partners, enabling the business, not just auditing it. And for sales teams, this impact is really big. At TrustCloud, we upgrade security and GRC into a profit center.
Wow, that's a powerful statement. How does it change things for sales reps who've been stuck waiting on security reviews?
Well, I can really speak for myself in this question. For me, it's been transformative. Sales teams no longer have to wait days or weeks for InfoSec to respond. With tools like TrustCloud's AI-powered Trust Center, they can proactively share the company's security posture in real time. That means they can handle security objections on the spot, reduce back and forth, and keep deals moving. More importantly, it gives reps time to focus on building relationships, understanding buyer needs, and closing deals, instead of just being a messenger between the buyer and security. It's really promoting the sales team to take control of how security posture affects their deals.
So overall, we are talking about a mindset, shift.
Yeah, absolutely. Automation isn't just about doing the same thing faster. It's about freeing teams to do more valuable work. For GRC, it's a shift from checklist to trust strategy. For sales, it's a shift from reactive waiting to confidence-driven selling. And for the business as a whole, it's about removing friction and building credibility faster.
So, talking about the modern trust center. So how does the modern trust center impact deal velocity, especially in end of quarter crunches when security reviews can become a blocker?
Yeah, that end of quarter crunches is tough. I would say a modern trust center is like a fast lane for deals, especially at the end of the quarter when every hour, minute, second matters. Typically, security reviews show up late in the sales cycle, just as the deal is about to close. Suddenly the buyer sends over this 200 question security questionnaire or asks for your SOC 2 report or pen test reports and DPAs. That process can stall the deal for days or weeks, costing the business critical revenue at crunch time. A modern trust center like what TrustCloud offers flips that process on its head. It makes all of your key security and compliance information accessible in a live, verified, and organized way.
So buyers can just self-serve what they need.
Yeah, exactly. Instead of going back and forth over email and waiting for someone on the GRC team to approve access, the buyer can go into your trust center, find the documentation they need, and move forward without delay. It's not just faster, it's frictionless. You're removing blockers before they show up. And, one way you can do that is we're transparent about how we don't price by user. So you can invite your entire sales team into your trust portal to be admins on that side so they can take control of which prospects they are inviting into the trust portal versus, removing access and keeping control of, protecting all of that information behind a clickable NDA.
What about gated content or sensitive documents? Can that be controlled?
That's a perfect question. Absolutely. A good trust center should be permission aware. So with TrustCloud, you can control who sees what and when. So we are, as I said before, we're going to gate certain documents behind that clickable NDA. We're going to give time limited access, and we're going to see exactly who viewed or downloaded content and when. So you're still in control, but you're not slowing down the process. You're speeding it up responsibly.
And what impact does that have on revenue teams?
For our team, it's been huge. When security reviews don't slow you down, deals close faster. Sales teams aren't stuck waiting for responses. GRC teams aren't overloaded and executives aren't watching pipelines slip into the next quarter because of paperwork. One of our customers actually put it perfectly. The Trust Center turned our security review from a blocker into a sales asset. That's the shift. You go from defense to offense.
All right. So what have you seen change when companies take a proactive versus reactive approach to buyer trust using tools like TrustCloud?
So I would say the difference between proactive and reactive approach to buyer trust is night and day. And TrustShare is one of those tools that really brings that contrast to life. In reactive mode, companies wait for the buyer to ask for proof. So this means scrambling to answer security questionnaires, tracking down the latest SOC 2 reports, redacting pen test results, and emailing PDFs back and forth, often under tight deadlines at the worst possible time, like the end of the quarter. But when companies use TrustShare to proactively publish their security posture, everything changes.
How so? What actually improves when you go proactive?
I would say three different main areas, being, speed, perception, and confidence. So the first one is speed. You're removing friction from the buying process. When the buyer already has access to a live, up-to-date trust center, 80 to 90% of their questions are already answered. You're not waiting on InfoSec, you're closing faster. And then perception, you're seen as trustworthy, mature. When you lead with transparency, buyers assume that you've got your act together. It shifts the dynamic from, can you prove you're secure, to, wow, this company gets it. And third, confidence on both sides. Sales reps feel more empowered, GRC teams are less stressed, buyers feel safe moving forward without a week long, 2-week long. I've been in months long security review processes. Everybody wins.
Well, do you have an example of this in action?
Oh, too many to count. I worked with one of our customers who shared that after launching their TrustShare page, they saw a 40% reduction in inbound questionnaire volume in just the first quarter, because their buyers were self-serving answers directly from the Trust Center. Another team told us that their end of quarter deal flow actually sped up because procurement teams weren't waiting around for documentation. They had what they needed up front. It's a small shift in mindset, but a massive shift in impact.
So would you say trust is no longer just a compliance issue, it's a sales strategy?
For sure. It's definitely a sales strategy for our team. Trust is a competitive advantage, and TrustShare helps you operationalize that advantage. When you move from reactive to proactive, you're not just checking boxes, you're creating momentum. You're showing up prepared. And in today's market, that could be the difference between winning and losing the deal.
With growing AI adoption and third-party risks, will buyers increasingly demand real-time views into a vendor's security posture rather than PDF uploads and static reports?
Yes, without a doubt. We're already seeing this shift in motion. Buyers today are navigating a much more complex risk landscape than they were even 3 years ago. The rise of AI tools, embedded third-party platforms, and evolving privacy regulations means that static snapshots of security like one-off PDFs or point-in-time audit reports just aren't cutting it anymore. What buyers want now is real-time visibility. They want to know, are you still compliant today? Are your controls operational right now? And a trust center, especially one like TrustCloud, answers that with live, always-on assurance. And the way that we showcase that on the Trust portal is, in the top right corner, you're always getting that last updated date and time. So your prospects can see when exactly, usually only a couple minutes prior to them accessing the portal, that this information was refreshed and imported onto the portal.
Amazing. What's driving that change? Why are PDFs no longer enough?
That's a great question. A few things are driving it. I would say the pace of change. AI systems evolve rapidly, and so does vendor risk. A PDF from 6 months ago might be outdated today. I would say it's most likely to be outdated today with, the ever-changing GRC landscape. Shared accountability. Buyers are now being held responsible for their vendors' risks, so they need continuous trust, not occasional check-ins. And then 3, I would say the expectation of transparency. People are used to real-time data in every part of their lives. Why would security be any different? A static SOC 2 report might say you're compliant as of December, but what about today? Real-time trust centers bridge that gap.
So what does a real-time security posture actually look like in practice?
That's a great question. It looks like a live trust center that's tied directly to your control evidence, policy updates, certifications, and risk monitoring tools. When something changes, say a policy is updated or a control is reevaluated, it reflects in the trust center in real time. At TrustCloud, we automate that flow. So the Trust Center isn't just a document library, it's a living system that proves your security posture backed by real-time evidence. That's what buyers want. And increasingly, that's what they're going to expect.
So are we heading toward a world where static reviews are a thing of the past? I've asked you this question in different words before, but I'm asking you again.
Perfect. I'll answer in different words than before. I'll say, I really hope so. We're moving towards a continuous trust model where posture is proven consistently, not reactively, where buyers don't need to wait for quarterly updates because they can see assurance in real time. And vendors who can't offer that, they'll be the ones who move faster, win more deals, and build lasting credibility in a risk-sensitive world.
Talking about the buyer experience, what does the ideal buyer experience look like in 2025? when it comes to evaluating a vendor's security posture, and how far are we from that vision today?
Ooh, I mean, I can speak for myself where, as somebody who has acquired or bought tools before, the ideal buyer experience in 2025 is fast, self-directed, and definitely trust first. So you can imagine, a buyer lands on your website, clicks into your trust center, and immediately sees a real-time, role-based view of your security posture. They can verify your compliance frameworks, access mapped evidence, view policy documents, and even see the status of key controls, all without sending a single email. They don't need to request a PDF. They don't need to wait for your GRC team, and they definitely don't need to fill out a 300 questions spreadsheet just to get basic answers. And that's the 2025 vision: security that's on demand, continuous, and built into the buying process.
That sounds like a huge leap from what most companies are today. Is there something holding us back?
I wish we could just take one gigantic leap into the future, but it is a big jump for a lot of companies. What's holding us back isn't technology, it's the mindset and the muscle memory. We've been doing security reviews the same way for over a decade. Buyers still default to questionnaires. Vendors still operate in reactive mode. There's this fear of oversharing, a tendency to protect everything behind an NDA, and a reliance on audit snapshots instead of live data, which, I totally can understand, but the tools to change that are here. TrustCloud's Trust Center is already giving companies the ability to publish dynamic, permission-aware, always-on assurance. The tech is no longer the blocker. It's about education and confidence now.
So what should vendors do today to get closer to that 2025 experience?
I would say it's time to start playing offense. I would say shift from a reactive posture to a proactive trust strategy. So set up a modern trust center, automate the mapping of your controls to your security artifacts, make your posture accessible, but also smartly gated where needed. And most importantly, give buyers the ability to explore your security maturity without any friction. The goal isn't just to close deals faster, it's to create trust at first click. That's how leaders are going to win in 2025.
Trust at first click. All right. How will buyers benefit from this from the shift long term?
Well, first, they'll be able to make faster, more confident decisions. They'll spend less time chasing paperwork and more time assessing actual risk. And they'll favor vendors who make that process seamless. In 2025, the winners will be those who treat security transparency not as a compliance burden, but as a customer experience priority. And honestly, we're not that far off. The companies investing in this now are already ahead of the curve.
Thank you so much for your time, Anna. It was great having you on TrustTalks.
Yeah, thank you so much. This has been a great conversation.